Hi friends, today I wanted to talk about being able to distinguish, if I could get my words, light from darkness. And why is that important and how is it confusing? And as you well know, that one of the days of creation, light and darkness were separated. And we must learn to do the same. And it is a lot more difficult than it would seem. It seems like dark is dark and light is light. And why would it be so difficult to separate the two? And it is. I had an experience when I was 19 that was a pretty, I would say, black and white experience that has set me on a path to understand it more deeply throughout the rest of my life. And so with your permission, I'd like to share a very personal experience that happened in my life when I was 19 years old. And I was investigating joining the Mormon church. I grew up with friends. It had been about 4 years now with intimate, deep connections with other Mormons. And I had come to a crossroad in my life and was trying to decide what direction I should go. And I had made a promise to some people that I loved that I would not be led astray and would do my due diligence in making sure that I was doing the right thing. And so I jumped down the rabbit hole of darkness. And it was back in the day. Well, first of all, somebody came to my house and denounced the Book of Mormon, showed me everything that was wrong with it. I had documentaries, I had pamphlets, I had the whole works. And then my final promise was to drive myself to the library and look through the catalog, the card catalog, which many of you may not even know what that is, and go to the, I don't remember if it was specifically a religious section or nonfiction, but I find that word nonfiction a little bit ironic because there is definitely plenty of fiction in the nonfiction section, which I found out that day. So I had all these books splayed out on the table in front of me, and I was reading just some of the most horrific things a person could read. And I was filled with a sense of darkness, dread, fear, all kinds of dark emotions. I actually felt sick to my stomach and as if I might vomit. And my world was really spinning, and I thought, what is this feeling? God, I thought you told me that I needed to go on this path, which will be discussed in part 2. What am I feeling? And thank goodness I had the presence of mind to ask myself an extremely important question. That question was, am I feeling this darkness because the information is dark? Or am I feeling this darkness because the church is dark? And whether or not you believe in Mormonism, or that is the path you have walked away from, or whatever it is, it's still important for you to be able to distinguish light from dark and use that in your life to make decisions. And at that point, I got a feeling that I knew the answer, but I felt I wasn't strong enough to carry through because I had a lot of opposition in my life. And it was definitely easier for me at that point to say, this church is darkness. I don't want to bother with it right now because the other answer is too difficult. And so I asked for a sign, even though I knew asking for a sign was asking for trouble, especially since I had already received a sign, and that's why I was pursuing the path that I was pursuing. I drove around for a little while, got another little tender mercy, signed from God that let me know that I had enough strength and I just needed to do what was right. That I knew what light was, and that was definitely darkness. And in this day and age, there is no nonfiction section. Even back in the day when there was a nonfiction section of the, a library versus the internet, it doesn't guarantee that nonfiction actually lies in there. Everyone has an opinion, has an agenda. I have an agenda. And it's each individual's job and responsibility to find truth and find the difference between light and dark. And make sure you're basing your decisions on knowing the difference and how you want to be motivated in life and feel in life, and what feelings come with that light and darkness versus what feelings come or from that darkness and what feelings come from lightness. God does not motivate in fear at all, period, point blank. And I know we get confused about it a lot of times because anxiety enters the equation, which is what I'm going to discuss in part 2. And you know what I was feeling anxiety, but it wasn't because, it was because I was fearful of what was required of me, knowing the correct answer. And so I would suggest embarking upon a studying mission between fear and peace in the topical guide. And I just want to get your journey started off with the Bible Dictionary of Fear. And this is what it says. Care should be taken to distinguish between two different uses of this word. The fear of the Lord is frequently spoken as part of man's duty. It is also described as godly fear. In such passages, fear is equivalent to reverence, awe, worship, and is therefore an essential part of the attitude of mind in which we ought to stand towards the all-holy God. On the other hand, fear is spoken of as something unworthy of a child of God. Fear is something unworthy of a child of God. Something that perfect love casteth out. The first effect of Adam's sin was that he was afraid. Sin destroys that feeling of confidence God's child should feel in a loving father and produces instead a feeling of shame and guilt. Ever since the fall, God has been teaching man not to fear, but with patience to ask forgiveness in full confidence of receiving it. And so there is really only one reason to feel fear. The kind of fear that causes us to question, and that is, are we sinning? Are we fearful of some consequences? Or in anxiety case, are we fear of things that are required of us? And that is not the Lord getting us where we need to go. That is our own selves feeling that fear. And so hopefully this kind of gets you started on a journey to ask yourself, what feelings am I feeling and why am I feeling them? And what outcome am I hoping to gain from those feelings? Is it dark? Is it light? Does it motivate me to fear? Does it motivate me to peace? And to really start to dig deep and to question those things. And I just want to thank you for watching and for allowing me to share a tender experience that happened to me a long time ago. Thanks. Bye-bye.